Okay. Let's see. I'm live according to this, but I need the pop out chat. Brother needs a pop out chat. Alright, so. Pop out chat, pop out chat. Pop out chat. We'll be with you shortly. Trying to get the pop out chat situation. All right. So as soon as we get that ironed out, I'll be right with you. Let's see. Okay. Push come to shove, I'll have someone read me the questions as we're going along. But let's check. Let's check. Let's go here. All right. Yeah. So how is everybody doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a safe week. And it's been a crazy week to say the least. You know, we're hitting new highs with this coronavirus situation, which is not helpful, you know. But nevertheless, we're all making it. You know, we're well. Hopefully you are well too. And let's see what's going on. So I'm still here. I'm still here trying to iron out my pop out chat issue. So bear with me. And here we are. So hope everybody's doing pretty good today. You know. And I'm doing well. You know, so if you get a chance, definitely leave a chat in the community settings, and like I said, bear with me, and because this is okay. So we're waiting for more receiving data for the stream. If you currently receiving data, your stream is healthy. Okay. And okay, we're just waiting for a few folk to show up, and as soon as they do, we will begin. Because today we're talking about Luna, folks. Talking about Luna. and see who's upgrading, who's not. Again, pilot error, boys and girls. Pilot error. Good day, everybody. Hopefully you're doing well right now. I guess I'm doing okay now. I had the had the chat set to private, but now it's public. And just need to get the data. Webcam, manage, cancel, stream now, class. No. Okay, so take this hat off. Hope everybody's doing okay. You could leave a comment in the okay, let me turn this I got a monitor on my iPhone. Jabbar in the Benz, what's going on? I'm doing well, man. I'm doing pretty good. Been a crazy week. Like I said, doing pretty good. I can't complain. I hope you're doing well. Just tell me what you've been up to, and we'll get it on and popping, baby. What's happening in your world? I'd like to know. Just leave me a bit of a comment. You know, if I'm looking down at my phone because what it is, for some reason, the chat is turned off on my screen here. But nevertheless, we're gonna make it. So today we're talking about Luna. What do you think? I mean, have you heard all the hype around it? Just tell me what you think of it. And have you had a chance to go on Universal Audio's website and actually see, you know, what the interface looks like, how to navigate in and around it, you know, things of that nature. You know, give me some feedback, and we'll been working in Essential. Oh, I hear you, man. Hey, listen, thank you. If you're an essential worker, really, honestly, thank you, because that means a lot, man. We can't survive without you guys. So, yes, most deaf. But yeah, we're talking about Luna today. I don't know if you've heard all the noise around it, you know. Excuse me. A lot of people are putting up videos about Luna. I happened to take a look at it, and it looks pretty interesting. But you know, a lot of people as well, and this is the danger of in times like these. You jump on a bandwagon only to jump off a bandwagon down the line. You know, what do I mean? What I'm saying is that, you know, before one would think about transitioning, there's a lot to consider, you know. And when I was looking at it, it seems like a decent enough workstation, or digital audio workstation, if you will, to be using. But the question will remain for many users: is it right for you? You know, is it right for your situation and your circumstance? And that's a lot to consider, you know. Yes, but was wondering about the gimmicky 3D audio. Yeah, that's funny, right? You got the gimmicky part right. You know, there's a lot to unpack when you think about getting into something new. I think some people do it for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? And when you're a business person, if you will, or if you make even a small amount of income from making music, regardless, small, large, or indifferent, there's a lot to consider when you're switching over, you know. And I don't think a lot of people, you know, when they're sharing information about a new platform or a new interface, they don't share that aspect. So that's the direction I want to come from today, because I think it's this particular software is geared towards a specific audience, if you will, you know. And it's like, who is that audience, you know? I remember when I used to get new pieces of equipment in the studio years ago. There's always this point in time where you just can't stick it in a rack and start using it. You got to learn how to use your tools efficiently. So here we are, fast forward to right now, and we have to ask ourselves, essentially, is it right for everybody? You know, I know it's free, but technically nothing is really free. You know, nothing is really free. So yeah, it's a lot to consider. Lots to consider. All right. So I'm going to get into the crux of it in a minute, and I'm just waiting for a few more people. Supposedly 4 are online. So let's do that. But got 5. So 5 is in the house. So who is the other 3? Who are the other 3 people? Say hello. I'd like to know what's going on in your world, you know, before we jump headlong into this discussion about Luna, you know. And tell me how the audio sounds as well. I got a new thing happening, so I'm using the Lewitt mic today for my audio. So trying something different, you know. Trying to up my game, if you will. Happy Easter, John 4:15. God bless. God bless you too, brother. Happy Easter, Resurrection Sunday to you as well. It's a little bit of a weird Easter Sunday. Normally we spend it in church, but as you know, with this issue that we're having as a nation, we cannot congregate like we're used to. It saddens me that some, and I'm stepping off to the left for a minute, it saddens me that some would use this time to view this circumstance from a political viewpoint, in that they want to say that our religious liberties are being challenged, when no, that's not the case. Actually, it's for the safety of us all. You know, and if you're a Christian, you know that the Bible says, out of the counsel of many there is safety. So only smart people are indoors. Less than smart people are rubbing shoulder to shoulder, greeting their neighbors, shaking hands in church. So that does not make you bright if you are doing that. That makes you a person who is playing Russian roulette with their life. Okay, so I'm off the soapbox, but yes, this was a weird Easter Sunday for me. Okay, but stay safe, people. Don't be silly. That's the most important thing that we can do. Off the soapbox, back to Luna. We're talking about Luna today, the Luna recording system, and I would like to know if anyone is considering upgrading. You know, like I said, it's a brand new system, and we're going to talk about the caveats of getting into something new. And we got 5 here. Okay, so let's just jump into it, man. Luna, what is it? Now, when I first looked at the you know, because there's a whole lot, there are rather a whole lot of videos, if you will, that are introducing everyone to Luna. And I found it a little odd that Universal Audio would use this time to introduce, a brand new platform. Only because we're in some really dire economic times, and I understand the reasoning behind trying to introduce something new, but it seems like the timing for it is a bit off. For the record, I am an advocate of Universal Audio's ecosystem, if you will. I'm not in it because I'm in the Avid ecosystem, because I've invested a lot of money into Avid. If I was starting out today brand new, I would be in the Universal Audio ecosystem because it seems to be, I think, one of the best out there. If you notice, I think that is the primary purpose. And according to if you look at, this screen that I'm showing you right now, it says right here that it transforms Apollo interfaces into the most inspiring and fully integrated mix-based recording systems on the planet. Now, yes, that means you're buying into the whole system, lock, stock, and barrel. Now, I'm sorry, mix. I said fully integrated Mac-based recording system on the planet. So, you're buying into the entire. Once you're there, you're there. What does that mean? That means for the person that's just getting into recording digital audio, the Luna system seems like the place to be. It's a good place to get your feet wet and for free. Because some of the best interfaces right now, I think, out there are made by Universal Audio. And that's any one of the Apollo series interfaces, from the dual channel one all the way up to the multi-channel unit. It's a good place to be right now. But for the person that's getting in or considering changing, you have a lot to consider. A few things you have to think about are this. Do you want to get rid of your current interface that you have? Do you want to make that investment? Because you got to think, you're making an investment, and the stuff, and one thing about Universal Audio, the stuff is not cheap. The interfaces, they're not cheap interfaces in terms of price. Do you want to forfeit your current system that you have for the Apollo system? Is that something that you want to invest in? One has to ask themselves that question. And in these times, the reason why I said initially, is it wise from a marketing standpoint for Universal Audio to have introduced it? These are some dire economic times. So I'm sure they have the numbers on the current Apollo users out there. So now they're trying to introduce the software side of it to pull you deeper into their ecosystem, perhaps. But for the new user, you're talking about the potential for an expense for the person switching over. Again, the potential for the expense. I think if I were a person that was coming from maybe, say, a not so great audio interface system, maybe a Audio, or maybe just like this little Focusrite, and you wanted to upgrade, yeah, it's a definite good choice as an upgrade. But if you're a person that's switching over from a fully blown Pro Tools system, you have a lot to consider, if you're thinking about jumping ship. So I'll take a question right now. And John 415 says, are you going to take the Universal are you going to the okay, I missed it. Oh, okay. I guess you want to know if I'm going to start using UA equipment. No. For a number of reasons. I do this for a living. I have a functioning system, and frankly, it's not a good investment for me. If I were a hobbyist, then I would think about it. I mean, if I had some spare dollars, this was fun for me. But no, because I do this for a living, and I have over $15,000+ invested in a HD system, which is about 12 years old. And I don't know if you've seen any of my other Avid and Digi rants. I'm not giving Avid another nickel. I can't. My system is stable. It runs. I can record up to 192K in HD. So whenever the audio standard changes from the perspective of servicing clients, then I'll have to, that's something I will have to consider doing. But right now, no. Am I going that? No, I really can't afford to do it. Official Stitchell says, I still got my Digi 008. Listen, if it's working, it's working. I mean, that's how I look at it in a nutshell. But there are benefits to like in your case, you're using a Digi 003. That is definitely aging technology with a not so great I guess internal clock and clocking technology has come a long way in that period of time. You don't have the onboard horsepower of an HD system, so someone like yourself would be a perfect candidate. If you were upgrading, it would be a perfect upgrade for you to get into the UA ecosystem. So let's go into, I discussed briefly, okay, it says it transforms Apollo interfaces. Now, according to Universal Audio, only Thunderbolt capable computers can run these interfaces that must use Luna. So again, if you're a person on an aging Mac or a Mac without the technology, and I think it's Mac based only right now, if you don't have the technology for I'm talking about Thunderbolt 2 technology on board your system, now you have to buy a computer. And I've been down that route of having to upgrade everything at one time, and trust me, it can get expensive real fast. If you don't have it budgeted as a professional, then you might run into some problems financially, because out of nowhere suddenly comes, I gotta buy a new computer, I have to wire this thing up. All these sudden expenses come out of nowhere, and trust me, it'll get expensive real quick. So why should you upgrade? Here's 3 points. You're already a part of the UA ecosystem. Like I said, you're already a part of it. You have an Apollo interface. You already have the computer. You have a decent set of the UA plugins. It's a no-brainer for you. You're already in. Why upgrade? Again, you're already a part of the ecosystem. You're there. There's no need for you to go out and buy anything. Maybe if UA took it a step further and now they pulled a community of folks like musicians together in order to facilitate, the exchanging of files through the Luna system, the mix services, performance services and things of that nature, to again create more of a community-based sort of system. Then again, like I said, you're already in it. You're the person, the perfect candidate. Just go download the software, bam, it's free, and you're in. But if here's another thing. If you're a new person, or you're a person that, like I said, in point number 2, you want to learn something new just to remain relevant. Again, if you have that type of time on your hand, all new software goes through a beta period. You have a learning curve that you have to go through. It seems to be pretty straightforward. Everyone's ability to grasp on to something new quick is different. Excuse me. If you're a quick learner, fine. You jump headlong in. If you're a person who doesn't have that spare time to learn a whole new system, then you have to consider, time investment that you're going to have to make in order to successfully navigate this system. Now, if you're a person that's on their own, singer-songwriter, you're an arranger, if you will, you're a person who does lead sheets for a living, this really doesn't apply to you, the learning curve, because you can learn at your own pace. The danger is that those folks who want to get a baseline knowledge and then turn around and offer that to a client, I don't advise that. Why? Because you're not serving your client. Well, if you're just trying to impress a client, that's one thing, but you make yourself look silly if you get out there in the middle of the session, and because of course this software is still in its beta period, it crashes. You don't know why. There's a lot that UA has to work out on their end, because this is all new for them. In terms of software based, this is all new. This whole system is new. Their R&D department, as well as their technical support people, they're going to be fielding a ton of calls from people who have discovered this bug or that bug or this bug or that bug. No system is immune. So to think that you're going to just learn how to record a couple of tracks and then suddenly you're going to offer this to your client is foolish. And again, you're underserving your client when you do silly stuff like that, because you don't know all that there is to know. It behooves one to, like I said, you want to test stuff out. I'll give you an example. I don't hire background vocalists, new background vocalists for client stuff. I hire people that I know can do the job because I'm serving a client. I know that I can count on this person to come in, bang the part out, bam, we're done, pay them, they're done. New people that I'm interested in and I've never worked with, they experiment on my stuff. It's not costing the client any money. Perfect example. I was in the middle of a project for a client once, and I had to hire a tenor vocalist, okay, for this particular project. I didn't know a decent tenor that could do the part. One of the vocalists suggested somebody. The guy came in. He was absolutely terrible. 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 I still had to pay this guy. You know what I mean? So I lost money and had to redo the part. So think about, if you're giving something new to your client, you're going to wind up losing on the back end if it crashes. If suddenly, God forbid, all the tracks they record for some unknown reason or bug within the system, erased all of their tracks. Stranger things have happened when it comes to software-based systems. Okay? So unless you're running a RAID system in your studio, you can count on issues to happen. What I'm saying is that experiment on your stuff before you jump headlong with this recording system software to give to your client. Experiment on your end first, then learn it well, then give it to the client. And let it go through a beta test, revision 1, 2, 3, 4, before you feel comfortable enough to actually introduce this, as the latest and greatest DAW that you could record with, as an option for your client. So you're gonna go through a learning curve. So expect that. Okay, and R&B Charles. Hey there, good sir. Hey there, my brother. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay. You know, um, I enjoy these times of. I'm not. Let's just sidebar for a minute. I don't want to use these moments as a point to talk at you. I want to interact with you. So if one person shows up or 100,000 people show up, I'm good one way or the other. This is a two-way thing. Some people use these live streams for that purpose, to talk at you and to introduce stuff. No, I want your feedback, because that allows me to know what you guys are thinking about. Because again, if you look all over YouTube, what do you see? Luna this, Luna that, Luna this, Luna that. You know, and I want to know what you guys think about it. I know I have my own opinion about it, but my opinions are based pretty much on this is new. Is it better than what you're using? You know, from my perspective, not from the perspective of a person who's already in the UA ecosystem. So I want your feedback, and I'd like to use these times for that purpose. So let's go to R&B Charles has asked a question. You have been blessing me with great knowledge through the years, and I appreciate it. Okay, I don't know you, brother, but if I have, well, I thank God for that. Like I said last week, each one teach one. I've been doing this for a while, and those gray hairs on my head are supposed to mean a modicum of wisdom. And if I can share what I've gone through with you and make you a better person, then that's the reason why I'm on YouTube. Some people are on YouTube because it strokes their ego. I have my daughter and my wife for that purpose. You know what I mean? But I enjoy sharing what I've gone through, and I've seen a lot, and I have experienced a lot. And I have sat at the feet of some of the greatest folks who have poured into me that were older than me. And if I can share, something that's going to make you a better person, then what you're going to do is pay it forward to the next person down the line. That's what this is about. Each one teach one. Selfish people, self-absorbed people as well, are just looking to withhold and put themselves up on a pedestal and make themselves look like all-knowing. I don't know it all. And when I don't know it all, I'm smart enough to understand that I need to reach out to those who know a little bit better than me. But with what I've gone through and have experienced in this lifetime, if it's a blessing to you and if it helps somebody, that's my mission on YouTube, my brother. So thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate you, and I want you to know that, okay? And so back to Luna. Do not introduce this software to your clients I don't care if you're making $5 or $5,000. Do not underserve your clients with brand new, unproven technology. It is dangerous. It can cost you, and I got stories when I was on Logic 2.5. Okay? So listen, don't. If you make it $5 or $5,000, regardless, do not use unproven technology on your client's work. Okay? So, you want to learn something new. You're the person. Just to remain relevant and say, oh yeah, I know how to use the Luna system. Good for you. This is a purpose to upgrade. You are already a part of the UA ecosystem, which means you have an Apollo interface. You are the perfect candidate for this upgrade. The third candidate that I would say is perfect for this upgrade is the one that's just starting out. I can't think of a better recording system to be involved in. And again, I said this in many videos ago. I think maybe one of my first 3 videos a couple of years ago. If I were just starting out, I would be headlong into the UA ecosystem. I just believe in everything that they're doing. It's just like all inclusive. excuse me, it's all inclusive. It's steeped in history from Bill Putnam Sr. all the way up to, I think, his William Putnam Jr., who is, I think, now running the company. Anyone want to chime in and correct me? But, you know, this man has a very deep history, and the company has a very deep history in audio. They're like, when you say Universal Audio, you're almost like equivalently saying like Rupert Neve, you know, because that's about how long Bill Putnam has been around, you know, for as long as the Rupert Neve. So there's a lot of history there, you know. So you can count on, because they have such a strong legacy, you can count on the system working, and not only working, but working well. You know, that's one thing. They know that their name is on the line, so it makes sense for them to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So if you're a new person getting into recording audio, I mean, the cost of entry is not cheap, of course, but nevertheless, you're getting in, you know, into a like I said, an ecosystem. I hate to keep using that word, because whether you know it or not, we're all a part of some sort of ecosystem, whether it's Pro Tools, Logic, or in this case, Universal Audio. You know, you're a part of, you use these tools and they're integrated you know, external parts for the purpose of creating music. You know, so whether you're using Focusrite with Pro Tools or Focusrite with this, you're part of some sort of ecosystem, and you're comfortable functioning and operating in one set of parameters, you know. But if you're a person who's just getting started, this is a perfect, you know, opportunity for you to drop some serious cash on a, because one thing about UA interfaces, they're not cheap. They're not cheap. They're quite expensive, but again, you could count on them being well made. So why consider, you know, upgrading? You're just starting out. This is a perfect opportunity for you to get a quality made system, as well as quality made hardware, you know, that you can count on. You know, again, their name is on the line when you're thinking about putting out a piece of equipment. It has to function. Not only has to function, it has to function well, you know, and it has to function for a group of people. That's why you have like some of the top guys endorsing, like a Mick Gazowski, you know, for that matter, who endorses UA. You know, they know that the history is there, and you know, and the quality is there. So, you know, even at the grassroots level, you know, you're getting some quality. So let's take a question. Okay, John 415 just weighed in. He says, I was at one of my colleagues' studios this week. He has created his ADD. He has created his analog to digital analog converters. Excuse me. And I can't. He upgraded to Burl Audio mothership. Whew. Okay, that's some serious cash there. All I can say is, wow. Very musical converters. Yeah, that's bro, mothership is not cheap. Yeah, I mean, the more money you spend, you could count on that quality. And again, it's just like even with the UA stuff, you know, my mother used to say to me, it pays to shop Macy's. You know, that means, you know, like when you buy quality, when you pay more, you're gonna get quality. And Macy's used to be a very, well, still is a very expensive store to shop in New York, if you will. And yeah, you get what you pay for. So yeah, the Burl mothership is, you know, a topic for another day. But yes, those are some quality converters, most definitely. Okay. And John Wade in again, he says the high end is very smooth and clear. The mid range is very focused. The low end seemed like it dropped an oct. Wow. In my opinion, these are the best converters on the market. Wow. Wow, that's saying a lot. I have no firsthand experience with Burrow equipment. Wish I did, because I do hear good things about them. But if you're saying that, then yeah, I guess that must be quite a system. I trust your judgment, my brother. Ooh, he said it's about $10,000. Whoa, that's some serious cash. I wish I had that kind of money right now. Even if I did, I don't know if I would drop that kind of cash. Well, listen, I this is how I spend money. Whenever I get huge projects, well, even in the past, okay, excuse me. When I used to get huge projects in the past, I would at least try and, if I was in a good place financially, take half that money and invest it some kind of way. And throughout the years, I've become a microphone junkie. So that's where most of my investment went. But in terms of quality conversion, it's indispensable. That's why I think, yes, maybe in some respects, even with in some respects, even with the introduction of Luna as a software-based platform, Universal Audio is stepping up their game to pull everybody into this, all-in-one solution for recording. And I think a lot of people are doing that. Personus with Studio One, and they have their boards that can also, record as well. Personus, with the Studio One, here UA with the Luna system. What many don't realize is that Focusrite was doing this with Pro Tools long before many others, were thinking about these all-in-one solutions. So yes, Focusrite in some respects as well. So when you're investing, there's two reasons why you would invest. I mean, from my perspective, it's like this. That investment has to net you that amount of money you're about to spend and some. Because to drop 10 grand on converters, you better make sure that project that you're involved in is at least a $20,000+ project, or it makes absolutely no sense to drop that kind of money. From a financial perspective, I'm talking about people who are looking at the bottom line of a balance sheet, and audio professionals. They got to pay taxes too. You got to make sure your investment's going to net, or it just doesn't make sense to invest. Or if you're going to invest a portion of your income, you invest it in a place that, God forbid, rainy day happens, you can get rid of the mic. If you went out and bought a $5,000 FET 47, you can get rid of that mic in a pinch because suddenly it's pouring outside and you need that money. So yes. Antelope Audio is really good also. Yeah, I mean, we discussed this last week. Antelope is a very good option, but we'll discuss converters more towards the end. Right now, I just wanted to jump back to my point of who, the Luna system pretty much is for, and I covered these 3 points as well. You're already a part of the UA ecosystem. You want to learn a new system just to remain relevant, or you're the person who's just starting out. Fast forward, there's a lot that you need to think about when either making an investment or changing over. Now, for those who are changing over, what I would advise, that let's just say if you're already in the Avid ecosystem, if you will, whether it's using Avid with any number of interfaces. Just don't eBay everything and then jump headlong into that's just craziness. Why? Stuff crashes. You're not 100%. If you got something that's already stable, you don't want something new to inhibit your ability to create because it's not as stable as the system you were used to. So don't just go eBaying everything right away, you know. And plus, there are other things you need to consider at the same time. Let's see. Here are a few things. I think I mentioned the last being the learning curve. Of course, the software itself is free, but guess what? Time is not free. Time costs money. You know what I mean? You're going to invest time. Once you invest the time, you can't get that back. Unless by some strange twist of fate, Luna becomes the industry standard and suddenly, because you jumped in at the ground floor, you're the guy that knows a lot about the system. You know, and you can shed light as to why this works or that doesn't. You're that guy. But by the same light, if you're not, or if those things happen, you invested 100+ hours into it, and suddenly it falls by the wayside as one of the newest digital audio workstations, then you invested all that time for what? Nothing, essentially. So that's something to think about. Here's another thing to think about. I happened to look at the cost of most of the plugins that they were offering. These things are expensive. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I thought that when you look back at everything that they're showing here on the initial screen, I'm thinking these things came as standard equipment with the system. Turns out, no. They talking about adding the studio, multi-channel tape recorder plugin to the cart. The NEVE summing, add that to the cart. That stuff gets very expensive quick. So again, you're talking about spending some serious money here. That's a lot to consider. Okay, let's jump into a question or a comment right now. Do you know what kind of built-in plugins Luna has? By the way, it's kind of confusing that they don't simply call it a DAW. I don't know whether that's the best marketing strategy. Only time we'll be able to tell the suits at UA whether or not the marketing department was on point. I know they want to make it something special, but at the same time, it's kind of misleading. Well, again, I go back to my original point. Yes and no. Misleading, yes and no. But for these reasons. It depends who you ask. If you're coming in and you're a new guy who's looking to get into a recording system, if you will, and you've never purchased a system at all, then yeah, I mean, this is a great option for you. This is your first dance, if you will. So I mean, if I was starting over today, I would go Universal Audio. But I'm not, because I'm deep in Avid territory. So it just makes sense for me to stay the course with that. But for the new person who's never purchased a system in their life, if they have this spare cash, you might as well go to the mountaintop, get the best of the best. And I think Universal Audio, and I've said this a long time ago, they got something special happening. And they had for a while, because I think they took note of what Avid and DigiDesign was doing in the beginning. Most of the problems that people were having with their systems was that the host computer could not keep up with the demands of plugins, the demands of processing, the demands of this, the demands of that in audio. I was one of them. I got tired of setting buffer sizes, this, can't create custom this, that, and the third. It was a pain in the behind. So what did I do? Once I got into the HD realm, it was like, oh, the lid is blown off of everything now. I don't have to worry about power on demand anymore. Back when UA was offering their accelerated plugin packages, you know, with the hardware accelerators, that's what everyone was using. I think they tapped into that and they was like, hey, wait a minute. We have something here. Why don't we create our own? Yeah, it makes sense. You know, you're already on the path for doing it. Keep going. You know, and that's what they managed to do all the way to and through to now, where they're like highly regarded audio digital audio software and plugins, and their plugins are modeled after some of the best hardware pieces out there. So technically, even from a historic perspective, you really can't go wrong with UA because of their legacy. You know, like I said, that's like Rupert Neve, you know, and his involvement with Focusrite, you know, his involvement with, you know, AMS NEVE, and right now Rupert Neve designs in America. So I mean, you can't argue with history, if you will. You know, you can't argue that Bill Putnam, and the founder of Universal Audio, and I forgot he started his career as an engineer, so he had his hand on the pulse of what's going on in the industry for years. So you're getting into a good circumstance when you get into the UA ecosystem. Okay, let's go to another question. John 4154 sound like Peter Brady. Chuckle. For those of you old enough to know who Peter Brady is, say amen. Anyway, Avid Pro Tools charges $300 a year. Yeah, see now. Listen, okay, let's not get on the Avid rant. Not today. Yeah, but yeah, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. You know what they're doing to the industry. You know, subscription based software, which I'm not a big fan of. Period. I don't care if it's from Adobe or Avid. I just don't like subscriptions. I feel, let me just purchase it outright. That's primarily one of the reasons why I won't upgrade, other than the fact that my system is stable, it works. I'll upgrade when the AES standard for digital audio changes. That's when I'll upgrade. Right now, 192K is 192K coming off of any type of system. So I don't care what it was recorded in. Is it at 100, 24-bit 192? Yes, it is. Thank you. Bam. Those are the files that go off. When that standard changes in AES, then I'll upgrade. But right now, it makes no sense. But see, the thing is that young folks getting into the game don't understand it from that perspective. Marketing is a powerful, powerful thing. You could get anyone with the right message to believe what it is you're saying. I'm not so young. Period. Okay? I'm not easily swayed. Why? Because I used to have to do all this stuff on audio tape. So it takes a lot to convince me that this plugin is the latest and greatest. I said last week, when from a plugin perspective, I find I have all of them. When I upgraded the system, I have all the top expensive plugin, Massenburg, DesignWorks, all this stuff. What do I reach for most of the time? The Digi plugins. So it's a lot of hype, marketing hype. It's not so much the system as it is to much the software. It's the same thing when you're buying a printer. Printers are cheap, right? Yes. Where do they make the money? In the cartridges. Yeah, I can give you a $50 printer. Ooh, that big old printer over there, $50. Ooh, it does this, it does that. Bells, whistles. But they know they're gonna gas you on somebody's cartridges. They ain't. I mean, listen. I was born that night, not last night, if you know what I mean. You know, so it's not it's about marketing hype. And like I said, some people get out there and they get plug-in junkies, man. They just buy plugins. Waves is another one. They get you strung out on plugins. Like that's gonna make your music sound better. No, it ain't. If you can't play, you can't play. I don't care if you got a $5,000 guitar or a $5 guitar. If you ain't got no chops, you ain't got no chops. You got to practice. So the plugin ain't making you better. Auto-tune don't make you a great singer. You either can sing in pitch or you can't. You can't, you find somebody who can. You know, so that's a story for another day. Let's get back to some questions. Mr. My brother, Mr. Pirate Brain has weighed in. My brother, how are you? I love that name, man. Yo, and listen, I'm still gonna get in touch with you, brother. He asks, do you like Behringer Clark Technic compressors? Sorry you just got here. Well, I'm glad you have arrived, and to answer your question, ta-da. Okay? Bam. There it is right there. Do I like it? Absolutely. Absolutely. You see, let's just sidebar, everybody. Let's sidebar for a minute. Let's just get something clear real fast. You know? See, I just went on my little rant about plugins, right? And I went on a rant about, you know, the youngsters getting gassed up on plugins. They Waves and all them, they're a bunch of old guys with suits counting their Christmas bonuses because they know you youngsters are going to get out and pad their pockets with a whole bunch of money because of these plugins. Plugins don't make music great. Just like I was having this debate, and again, we're sidebarring from the Lunar system. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. But everybody want to debate about whether Heritage or Warm Audio or this or that. Hey, listen, man, this is the deal. Plugins are tools. Preamps are tools. Okay? They don't magically make you a great musician. Period. You know, you either understand how things work musically or you do not. Ain't no bit of equipment going to make you a better musician. Period. You know? Some youngsters happen to think that that's the case. I'm not so young. I went to music school. I've played with some phenomenal players who made me look great because I'm the guy that got the one bit of talent and they had 10 bits of talent. So me playing with them make me look great. You understand? But, you know, when you take all these things and you put them all together on the whole, it's like, just because you have auto-tune, let's use auto-tune again, doesn't make you a great singer. And even if you are a person that uses auto-tune, which I do, there is a proper way to use it. It's a tool. No, people want it to be an end-all be-all. Oh, she was close. I had a producer that was like that, man. This guy was a pain. Oh, man. They were a pain. He was a pain because this guy would literally want me to go in and highlight phrases. And if you know how to use auto-tune, it's like this. To get the best from auto-tune, you have to have a degree and a knowledge of music from a theory background. Okay? First, you have to set the key that the song is in. Second, auto-tune is assessing whether or not the pitches that the person is singing is in key. Now, he's paying the bill, right? I don't mind. I'll sit here 8 hours and go through each and every syllable. But what kind of musicianship is that if I got to go through every syllable to pitch correct you if you're off microtonally? That's craziness. But you know what? Some of the youngsters out there, that's what they do. They getting this like mad scientist lab stuff. Man, listen, call me old, cranky. I just don't have time for that. Either you can sing or you can't. Time is money, man. I ain't got no time to be one of these. You can't, and you want me to pit. It's your nickel that you spending. Fine, I don't mind. But you think I'm going to hire a vocalist, okay, to do client work for me, and you can't sing, and I'm going to go there and pitch you up? And nah, you got another thing coming. Nope. Next. Been there, done that. People hiring other people. Can't sing. You can't sing. Well, can't you pitch? I ain't pitching you. Pitch you. Ding, out the door. You ain't getting no money from me. That's craziness. But some of these kids, and I employ a couple of them, they don't mind sitting down and actually going through each and every syllable within a key. Now, if this person is a chromatic singer, as some gospel singers are, they will go up and down runs, you know, and some of these runs may have pitches and pitches that are not necessarily in the key of the song. You're going to go in there and microtonally move things up and down? Are you kidding me? I have no time nor patience for that. Sorry, folks. So go and buy Auratone and do it if you want to. All of these plugins are simply tools to get a job done, hopefully in a more efficient way. No, it is not an end-all be-all. So stop getting strung out on plugins. Stop getting strung out on whether this is better than that or that is better than this, because in the end, it's about the song. It is about the song. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, Paul McCartney, Art Garfunkel, and Paul Simon are all still to this very day spending the money and getting money from songs they wrote over 40 and 50 years ago. Think about that. That's a fact. And there was no high degree of technology 40 and 50 years ago. So how are these guys still collecting paychecks this day? Because it gets back to the song. Screw all this other hype around plugins and all that other crap. Y'all better get it right. I'm telling you, because it gets down to whether you have good musicianship chops or you don't. It's one or the other. Ain't nobody gonna hire you putting $10,000 in cash of a budget in your hand if you can't get the job done. Period. You either know how to arrange for string quartet or you don't. Period. You either know it or you don't. I used to have a professor who used to say that in college. You either know it or you don't. If you don't know it, you ain't getting the job. It's that simple. Stop getting strung out on plugins. And please, for those of you all who keep sending me hate mail about warm audio, knock it off. Because it's not that serious, number one. Heritage makes good stuff. Warm audio makes good stuff. The tools have to serve the end user. I'd never said that Warm was better than Heritage. I said that Warm serves me better as a tool for these reasons. So when you're reaching for a piece of equipment or plugin or whatever, I don't care how much money you're about to spend. It has to be serving a purpose, for I'm babbling now. It has to have a purpose, that's going to serve you in a particular way. Okay, so let's just be clear from that standpoint. Okay, now, Armando, commercial loudness. Okay, we're going to get back to some questions. We're going to get back to Luna in a minute. But I just want to quickly address some questions. Because I see Armando Garcia. Hey, bro, ¿cómo estás? ¿Está bien? ¿Está bien? Let me know and make sure you answer me in Spanish, because the brother's trying to brush up on his Spanish skills. Okay. Commercial loudness. Armando asks, how loud is good? Could I rely on a plugin or VU meter? Okay. Again, we're stepping out side of the topic really quick. I'm going to address that for you right now. What I would suggest is that you invest in a TC Electronic Clarity M to confirm that your levels are to the standard of what you're using it for. For instance, if you know that, all right, Armando, good, my brother. Right on, bro. If you know that you're going to be streaming, and I've covered this, but there's a lot of layers to what I'm about to tell you. If you know that you're producing music that's going to be streamed, and you're going to be making it available on iTunes or on Spotify, I'm going to in next week. This is what I want you guys to do. I'm gonna send you the link. I'm gonna put a link in the community tab about the standards for both Spotify, and link you to where you can download and see it for yourself. Because some people go through these services like CD Baby in order to get their music released, and a lot of this information is available directly from the source. So I think it's better for you to see what the source requirements are level wise, and then with that in mind, what you want to do from that point is make sure that you obey those standards. Because again, I'm getting back to my last week and week before that chat about mastering outside of the box. You need a quality control chain within your studio, from the recorded tracks all the way to and through to streaming. You need a way to be able to assess whether or not you're meeting that standard. The best thing you could do, I don't know if I trust these software-based meters as much as I do a hardware-based, because from a digital perspective, coming out of your interface, I'm able to assess via a party that's not within the software, something that's a hardware-based situation. I'm able to assess whether or not that is actually the case. And when you go to a mastering house, that is exactly what they do. You can hand them a master, but they're going to look at their meters and be like, yeah, man, this, unless you had tones in the beginning of your master, which they can align to. And if they did align, if you had tones and they could align their system to your tones and see exactly where you came in at, they will be able to tell you whether or not this was well recorded, giving them enough headroom or not. But if you're doing your own mastering, you need to be able to assess that for yourself. The only way is that you need an outboard meter. That TC Electronic Clarity M is a godsend, because Lord knows I was about to pay quite a sum of money for an outboard one by Daw'S, and an actual hardware-based unit before I discovered that. I was about to invest in a Daw'S system, and Daw'S systems are pretty expensive, but they're highly accurate meters, highly accurate, for an analog meter. And they're known for creating highly accurate meters. So for TC Electronic to come along and create the Clarity M that's tapping digitally into your system, that's a godsend, because it's like a person with their finger on the pulse of your entire mix chain, giving you real-time feedback on whether or not you're meeting a particular standard. Because within the Clarity M, you have certain presets for iTunes mastering, for streaming, for broadcast audio, for television. You have those standards already, those presets already built into the meter. So it's a highly accurate way to assure that you're giving the end user exactly quality quality audio that's going to be streamed. Because in the end, iTunes, they're adding their codec to the music being streamed, and that may compromise the quality of your signal. So you need a way, before it gets out to streaming, you need a way to assure that you're giving them exactly what they're looking for from a quality standpoint. You know, whether it's the high res file, from the high res file all the way to and through the proper levels for streaming. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. And would I actually use a software base? I have, but it was so every time I use a software based meter, it was always something in a correlation meter. It was always something in the back of my mind that says I can't assess whether or not this software is highly accurate. It's software based, zeros and ones, but here's a hardware based solution that's tapping digitally zeros and ones into the chain and telling you what's going on from an independent perspective. That's what I wanted. That's what I'm getting from the TC Electronic meter. So I would suggest investing in one if you know that you're going to be streaming your audio. Okay? Hope that answers your question. So let's go back. Someone, yeah, and okay, Armando, I answered your question. Plug-in reliable meters. It's like Mary J. Blige sounds great on record, but out of key live. Well, yeah, that can, if that comes from not being able to hear yourself, I would imagine. But then Mary J is the queen bee. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. There's very few people that can touch Mary. That's my girl. So, yeah, Mary is the bomb diggity, dude. All right. But that comes from monitoring, man. And if you ever play live, you at the mercy of the monitor engineer. Excuse me. You at the mercy of the monitor engineer. That's a topic for another day. Haven't played live. Good, geez, sweet baby. God, stories, man. Stories where the back line was jacked up on a tour, man. Bro. Songs and stories for another day. But let's get back to Bob Dylan can't sing, but his songs on chorus. Yeah, see, that's another one. Like Bob Dylan. Everybody, like I say, you want to get gassed out on somebody's plugins, but B, if you can just, like, even as much as I don't like this guy, for a number of reasons, Ed Sheeran, he's like a pop music wonder. I don't think he can sing great, but I think he's really has a good grasp on pop music. What's the other girl? My daughter loves her. The red lipstick. I forget her name. Y'all help me out. I forget. Not Katy Perry. She's like a Katy Perry. If you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah, but she's a great pop artist. The name will come back to me. But yeah, it gets down to the song, man. Ain't no plugin can help, doo-doo. If your songs ain't making it, they ain't making it. They're not making it. How do you make it work? And it's those people who have good, decent, you don't have to be steeped, but if you have a decent facility with understanding how to make music work, you don't have to be virtuosic. You just understand, like you're the guy that can put the Rubik's Cube together quick. You just understand how it goes together. Bam. It doesn't make you virtuosic. It doesn't make you Einstein. You just understand there is a pattern that I need to follow to get all the colors to line up on all sides. You understand it from that perspective. Because music in and of itself is mathematics. Agreed on the plugins, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Cool breeze. Let's listen to some, let's get back to Lunar really quick. So again, like I said, what to consider. If you are getting into this system, lock, stock, and barrel, plugins can get very expensive very fast. Now, I know you see some of the top guys. Yes, Taylor Swift. That's her name. Taylor Swift. Jumping, a few steps backwards to who I was trying to make. Yeah, she makes great, pop songs. But she understands how to make music work. But back to my original point, plugins can get very expensive. And some of the plugins you just don't need. Like, for instance, I'm looking at this plugin right here right now, the NEVE summing mixer. 300, not 100, $300. $300. That's a lot of money, man. That's a heck of a lot of money. In today's economy, yeah. And I mean, to each his own. If you want to buy it, that's something to consider. But think about how deep this situation gets if you just keep investing in one plugin after the other, after the other, after the other. It can get very expensive very, very, very fast. And then everybody say, okay, well, I got all these plugins. Do you know how much it costs to wire? To wire this whole system together, you've invested. You know, mixing and quote unquote mastering is what a lot of the youngsters getting into nowadays. Nobody's recording music. And I've witnessed this firsthand. And this is no indictment on young people. Trust me, it's not. But y'all need to brush up. Youngsters, y'all need to brush up on how to what mic for what, understanding what mic technology is, knowing how to read microphone specs. Some of y'all coming out of these programs is like, huh? You know, like I said to you before, a lot of my time was spent as a microphone setup guy. I enjoy, and maybe I'm gonna reach out to a very good friend of mine that I understand he's a very well respected recording engineer. I love this guy. I would call his name, but I'm not. But nevertheless, what drew me to him was his ability to be able to record a signal. You know, I mean, if you don't know how to properly record something, then mixing the mix guy's job twice as hard. You know, so I think it's very important to understand that don't take this whole I can fix it in a mix thing too far, man. Too far. Because everything can't be fixed in the mix, you know? So let's get back to a question really quick. Don't forget, like I said, plugins get to be very expensive, as well as wiring the whole system together. Think about what plugins you need and why. You may need just a couple of good EQs. Maybe the EQs they give you with the bass configuration of the UA system is all you need. Start there. Don't start just buying plugins because your favorite engineer is endorsing them. Because what works for him may not necessarily work for you. Okay? Here's a statement from Avalon Major. I've listened to some hardware versus UA comparisons and have noticed, although they're extremely close, some high in distortion, brightness, and some plugins, but not horrible for what you get for the money. No, they're not. But again, that's a topic for another day. Software plugins and their emulations of hardware counterparts, they're not replacements. They're not replacements. And again, I think it's everyone's ears are tuned differently. Most of the youngsters coming up nowadays have not experienced being in a studio where they had to sit between near and far field speakers. If you are a person who has, then your brain has burnt into your long-term memory what that dimensionality, if there's such a word, felt like in that environment. So constantly you're tapping back into what that memory and the audio perspective, from an audio perspective, you're tapping back into that memory. So quite naturally, when you're reaching for, or you're mixing within these systems, that is your point of reference. And you're going to constantly draw on that to give you exactly what you're looking for, because it's either going to work for you or it's not, you know. So let's go. Someone, John 415 says, can you do a tutorial on how to use the TC Electronics meter? Yes, that has been on my mind for the longest, but the methodology is what I want everyone to understand. See, people buy a meter and it's like, okay, the meter looks pretty. Oh, the lights, bells, was woo, bing, 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 bing. That's not what The point of having the external meter is to make sure that your entire system is calibrated. So what I would suggest, yes, I've been giving it some thought, but the how to tie it into my message of how to calibrate your system. A lot of people don't understand the purpose of having meters, external meters. Like, for instance, I know that when I'm looking at the meters on this my monitor controller, on the Rosetta, and on the TC Electronic, I know that all three are calibrated to my interfaces, which come in at negative 18 decibels full scale. How do I know that? I use a tone oscillator. I sent a 0 dB tone at +4 out into a preamp, out of the preamp at a particular level, out, made sure that it hit at least negative 16 here, 18 here, and 18 here. If it didn't, then I know that I needed to trim the meters here. Trim it some kind of way here. You have to make these adjustments so that once you don't have to constantly wonder if you're in the neighborhood. Whether you're going out of the box or staying in it. You know that every time you plug in a mic, you're at the right level. But there's only one way to know what that level is. You got to know where 0 is on your preamps. I think my overarching point is that, audio just does not appear by osmosis. Like, oh, there's the sound. No, audio does not appear by eyeballing your levels. That's craziness. You have to know where 0 is. And that comes from me having to cut tape. If I'm handing a reel of tape off to a mastering engineer, the only way he knew whether or not I had good levels is if I had a reference tone at the head of the tape. And you had to state what that reference tone was. 0 decibels full scale not decibels full scale. 0 dB VU at +4. And that's what was on the back of the box. So that when he put it on his machine, if he knew that his meters were at a particular point, he knew he needed to bias or trim, or so that what he's listening to is exactly what you were listening to. It's a calibration level. It has to be calibrated some kind of way outside of the box. And that happened even from the mixing console to and through. It's just a standard practice that I was used to. That has carried over to digital, and it's served me well. I can look at meters and know, okay, I'm in a good place, average-wise, without having to eyeball and be like, oh my God. No, there's no need to do that. Because I know everything is properly calibrated because I used one of these to start out. And that's the only way you're going to be able to know, So, yes, I've been thinking about doing a tutorial, but it has to come from the right perspective because I want you to understand that there's an end user for the signal. Who is it? Is it iTunes? Okay, what's their standard? How do we prepare for that? That's a lot of technical information. Some people are up for it, some people aren't. But I want to make sure that I'm not giving you just the glossed over version, because if I gloss over it, then it's going to be like, a half-hearted attempt at educating someone, and I believe in doing it right or not doing it at all. So yeah, I have been giving it some thought, and it's just a matter of how to answer your question. And let's go to some more questions. Mr. Pirate Brain, my brother, he said, I wanted an API mic pre for $3,000, but bought a Behringer 1820 mic pre for $240, and it sounds just as good as the API on most things. Yeah, it's just a matter of just like, you know, when you buy any type of mic pre, you can't use one mic pre on everything. You know, some things are genre specific. You know, I'm sure if you looked at it from a deeper, more technical perspective, from, you know, componentry, you know, you can't compare apples to apples. Then, you know, then things start to separate themselves a bit more. But if you can get a clean enough signal out of it, listen, I've made records on an 8-track machine before. 8-track records that have sold a lot. Not gold, not platinum, but people have made decent enough careers selling 20,000 CDs and 25,000, 10,000 CDs, 1,000. You know, that's a lot of money, man. Back in the day, that was. But it wasn't. They come to me and pay me my little bit of money, and I had a 1/2-inch Tascam, you know, recorder. You know, so it's what you do with your tools, you know, and if you can get the maximum from it. And I always knew how to push my equipment and knew when it was like, okay, this is maxed out. I can't get nothing else from it. That's why I went HD as well. So, and let's go down. Here's another question from Mr. Pirate Brain. He said, what if you use DistroKid for your distribution and they go to Spotify, iTunes, etc.? It's no different. I don't think that who's distributing the music is as important as who's encoding it, because it's all being encoded by the Spotify's codec or Spotify's codec or iTunes codec. You know, one or the other. You know, so it's all winding up in the same place, regardless of distributor. You know, it's all going to one of the streaming services. You know, so we have to make sure that we do our due diligence and that we're providing them with high resolution files. That's why I've decided to start coming out of the box, because I realized that although you know, although we want to make sure that we're giving them the best possible the highest res that we could afford to give them, we want to make sure that we ensure that what's being streamed is exactly what we heard when we were mixing it. That's where the disconnect was happening for me. You know, and then after talking to a few industry folk about the same thing, it started to become with me the general consensus. You know, younger folks not so much, but those of us who have been around for a while, from tape to digital, were saying pretty much the same thing. Now, I don't care if you mixed on ADAT, DA88, or tape. It was the same thing. It said, something's being lost when I do it all in the box. Even Tony Shepard was saying the same thing for the longest. He was like, he got me into recording to disc back into through a bus in Pro Tools, and it started to sound better. As a matter of fact, I think that's how I did most of Dolores Bowman's record. Is that I recorded back to disc, bust all the mixes out back into the session. I started doing it like that. Before that, I was bouncing, you know, to disc out through the mix bus. And he was like, no, record through the bus back into the session. I started doing that. Sounded a little bit better. But I started noticing with stuff that was finding its way to streaming, and this was with the Diana Dolman project that I was working on, that something was missing. The mixes were sounding a little bit thin. I was like, wow, it sounded a little bit more fat in the bottom before. Something's wrong. But see, by this time, I wasn't using outside mastering services as much. Everybody was saying, okay, well, you know, you could send most of the clients didn't want to pay for, I should say, you know, me to send it to a mastering house. They wanted to just, okay, well, I'll just take a stereo wave file from you and I'll distribute it that way. But I didn't feel like that was a good enough representation of what high resolution audio should sound like. You know, so when I started recently coming out of the box, when I started coming out of the box, it was like something different was happening. You know, so let's go back to something different was happening that was better. You know, I was you know, experiencing a little bit more depth that I was used to hearing. In other words, you know. I would really love to hear your work. You can. Like I just mentioned, Dolores Bowman's record, Deloris Bowman, Bowman, is a gospel artist. She was one of the original members of the Marvelettes. It's an older woman at this point, but wasn't so old when we did this record. But we're only going back about 2007. That's one record you could listen to on iTunes, as well as my own, you know, and that's on iTunes as well. I did a record back in about 2010, a experimental jazz record, you know, for my band at the time, which was The Project. Bryant Wilder, myself, Michael C. Lewis, those were some of the players on that record. So yeah, that stuff is available on iTunes. Just Dolores Bowman, Warren Henry Project, if you want to hear some current stuff. And let's go. Jonathan Bergstein. Ableton stock mod plugins are kind of crappy. Probably gonna get Waves Silver. Don't need more than that. Yeah, I mean, listen, whatever works for you, you know. I think I've stopped, like I said, after investing so heavily into you know, all the Avid plugins when I bought my HD system, and stacking. Every time I turned around, I was reaching for the Digi plugins. And then I think, you know, also there's a learning curve that you have to go through with learning plugins, because like I said, I had like some of the youngsters that come through that I hire on occasion as assistants. They like he really knows how to properly use Auratone. I mean, he's the guy, like I said, that can go down and micro tune and this a pitch. I ain't got no time for that. But he will cut that word, cut that syllable. Oh, that's a little bit off. Raise that. That's what the kids are raised on. You know, that's what they know. That's their point of reference. You know, that's their point of reference. So, to each his own. Waves, they make good plugins. I'm not gonna lie, they do. UA, they make some bomb diggity stuff as well. So this is a, let me read the Milan Madrinik. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name properly. Thank you for joining us. You seem like a new person. I appreciate you being here. He wants to know if it's UA 1073 versus WA 73. Okay. Whatever works for you. Plugins and hardware are tools. I'm going to give you my short analogy. Short, direct, and honest. I watch all your vids. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. But to answer your question about UA 1073 versus WA 73. Okay. Plugins and hardware are tools. They don't make your music better. Some of the greatest music in the history of music, from Bach to the Beatles, was made on inferior equipment by today's standard. What makes good music is the musician. You either understand how to put things together so that they make sense musically, or you don't. So that's that end. However, once you do understand how to make things work, those tools will take it to another level. Okay? You will then know that, hey, I prefer to hear the fatness of hardware or the fatness of software. Those are extensions of what your talent and your understanding of musicianship is. They're just tools. So you reach for whatever's going to take your stuff and give you exactly sonically what you're looking for. I try to not get into debates about hardware versus software, heritage versus warm, which is ironically my largest video on YouTube right now. But some people like that debate. I'm not that guy. Because I'm the guy that had one little bit of talent going into music school. Okay? Being around some of the top musicians in New York. And I've seen it all. Guys who are like laser focused on detail. One guy, such guy that I'm in love with right now on YouTube is Adam Neely. The guy is phenomenal. He's like some of the people I bumped into when I was in music school that I looked up to. And I have a high degree of respect for this man. And I'm probably old enough to be his father. But his depth, and like a Rick Beato, these are guys who have a depth of knowledge, man, that I don't care whatever setting you put them in musically. They're going to shine and shine some more. So the equipment is just an extension of a tool that's going to help you reach your creative goal. It's not a matter of which is better. It's a matter of which musician is better, because like I said, from Bach to the Beatles, all those great Bach concertos were made, in less than ideal circumstances, but it didn't negate the fact that Bach was a great composer. The Beatles made recordings on a 4-track recorder. Timeless music. So it's not about the tool as much as it is about the musician. So I will work on my musicianship chops first. If you're lacking there, if you are. And sometimes equipment just can't help you. You got to know what the 5 of 5 in the key of E flat is. You either know it or you don't. You understand functional harmony in music or you don't. You understand tonal harmony in music or you don't. You either understand the depths of music or you do not. Because I don't care. You could give some of these pop. I've heard many pop recordings now that just have a vocal and guitar, and it's great music. Why? Because they understand how to put the pieces of the puzzle together that's going to be to your liking. So I would say the tools are less important. The musician is more important. Because in the end, and I'm coming from the perspective of a person who's graduated with a degree in music. In the end, when I had to go before those professors and do those performances for those juries, I either knew it or I didn't. And believe me, I got turned around and told back, I don't think so. Go back and work on it. Many a times. So you either know it or you don't, and if your goal is to become a great musician, there's just no better way for that to happen than for you to have a deeper understanding as to how to convey your message musically. The tools are an enhancement and an extension. But how can I convey this emotion musically so that my users, the end user or the consumer, feels the emotion I'm trying to express through this composition? Either you have a capability that can do that or you don't. And where you're lacking, that's where you want to make up the difference. Sometimes these companies, they make you think that getting that deep and involved in the technical aspect is going to help you musically. That's debatable, because I come from a point in time where you couldn't fly vocals from verse 1 into verse 2. You had to cut them joints blah, 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 stacked. Okay, we got 8 tracks. Fast forward. Bam. Verse 2. Doing the same thing again. There was no cut and paste crap. So that's why you had a small community of musicians that might be doing Broadway in the evening, and in the daytime they cutting jingles. Because they had an ability to get the job done quickly, because they had an understanding of maybe how to solfege or to sight sing. And listen, I'm calling Sue because I know Sue is a great sight singer. I can give her the chart. She could bang it out. 3 hours, she got her check. She gone. It's less about the tools, guys. Honestly. I don't know where maybe half of you are from in America, man. But listen, you want to know how good you really are? You got to get into the pot. That's why I don't be trying to soup or gas myself. Listen, you get in New York, where you go to some of these open jam sessions and you be flabbergasted by the level of talent. You know what I mean? But when you think about it, you're going to take something from that. It's going to make you a better musician so that you can work more. You know what I mean? So when you're around a lot of talent, it's going to enhance you, or it's going to push you. But if you're in a place where there's maybe not so high a level of talent and you're the big fish in the pond, then it's easy to somewhat relax because you got just a few people loving you, gassing you, thinking you great. You know? And then you get into a real situation where somebody slap a chart in front of you and you standing there scratching your head because you can't sight read. It's more about the musician, less about the tools, guys. So, like I said before in one of my rant videos, let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it twisted. You know, people love you because they love that music. They love the message that you're trying to convey. You know, so that's where the focus should be, and less on the technical aspect. The technical is supposed to enhance what's already there. What's already there. You either got it, you have it, or you don't. And where you don't have it, just because you don't have the talent today does not mean you will not acquire it tomorrow. Be willing to take your stuff to the next level by sitting at the feet and reaching out to those who know. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Because I came into music school thinking I knew everything. And I was cut down to size. Oh, I could play, yeah, you could do this. Cut, chop. Humble, man. I remember when the department head put me in piano one. I was like, piano one? I said I could play, basic chords. I can, He's like, nah, you ain't getting this degree unless you understand the depths of what is being taught here. Number one. Number two, you need to work on your chops. Best advice I ever got in my life. Kicking me in my behind, telling me you ain't getting this degree unless you get into this class. Sometimes you just have to empty your cup. You got to empty it so that you can be filled. I'm telling you. So all of them, you kids out there looking for them quick fixes, forget about it. Plugins are not a quick fix. You understand? So let's not get it twisted. So let's get back to Luna. I'm off my soapbox, my dad's soapbox, if you will. Luna. What to consider? Let's jump back to that screen. The learning curve, you're going to go through learning a brand new software from the ground up that might work for you, that might not work for you. So you got to be very, very, very considerate of how much time you're about to get to this thing when you're learning it. B, the plugins. Now, what I would suggest for those of you who are going and considering upgrading, count the cost of the plugins that you think you might be interested in. Maybe the NEVE summing mixer is something you want. I have heard some of the UA plugins, the NEVE emulations, and some of them do sound great. I'm not gonna lie. Are they replacements for the real thing? No, not necessarily, but they sound good. They really do sound good. But try to not, like I said, get so caught up in adding so many plugins to the cart in the beginning. I think when you first buy your universal audio system, they provide you with a baseline, group of plugins to get you started. I don't know. Anyone who's on the UA platform can chime in right now and enlighten me. But nevertheless, it's a good place to start. Okay, so start there. Start with those plugins. If you're using UA hardware along with Pro Tools software, you have the best of both worlds. You have the ability to use the UA stuff as well as the Avid plugins as well. So that's a good place to start. Okay. And Mr. Milan says, I am the bomb. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, brother. Honestly, I'm just trying to share what I know, to share what I know. If I could help somebody along the way, then that's why I'm on YouTube. Warren is not on YouTube, and I'm not even monetized. So I'm not on YouTube to be like a Casey Neistat or some of these guys who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of my subscribers. Honestly, I do. But I think I'm on more for the purpose of sharing just what I know. And you look at my about page, that's what it's about. It's about community as far as I'm concerned. So if I'm helping you, then excellent. Now, who is this? Cabadays 12 says hello. Hello. Fill me in on who you are. You look like a new participant. What you do. I'm interested. Primarily today we're talking about Luna. Whether or not you're, a current UA user who is going to start using the software, I'm interested in knowing your perspective on it. So if you would be so kind as to share in the comments so that we all can have a measure of dialogue with one another, I'd appreciate it. But I'm going into some of the pros and cons right now of using or upgrading to the Luna system. And like I've said earlier, Luna only on Mac, down. So I guess you're not going to be, you must be on a PC platform. Yes, because it's only a Mac based system right now. Yeah, they're taking advantage of the Thunderbolt 2 connection. So yeah, if you don't have those connections on your computer, then I guess you can't utilize it. But I'm curious, and this I don't know. I'm going to have to look up as to whether or not if Luna is able to be used with the accelerated plugins. If there's anyone who is using it or intends to use it with their the hardware accelerators that UA. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, with the interface and the hardware accelerator, of course, to get the audio in and out, but the interface and the hardware accelerators, I wonder if it's something that's going to be integrated, if not now, in the future. That's interesting. Yes, I'm a PC user. Ooh, I got some PC horror stories, man. But they've come a long way. No, they're much more stable than they have been. But yeah, man, those are stories for another time. I was on a PC platform utilizing Logic 2.5, believe it or not. Yes, I am that old. Logic 2.5 with the dongle, boys and girls. And man, that thing crashed. I'll never forget the day I was working. I heard that, and I got the blue screen of death. I was like, oh snap. My wife will tell you, I came upstairs with tears in my eyes. I had lost an entire project. I was 6 songs deep into a project. All 6 songs gone. Using IDE hard drives. Gone. Never to return. So, yeah, I'll never forget those days. Tears in my eyes, like in utter disbelief that I just lost an entire project on a PC. So, at that point in time, I think the next day I went out and I bought a Mac. And that's going at least 20 some odd years back. I haven't looked back since. So I've been a Mac user since the Mac 2VX. Oh, my man laughing. Yeah. Yo, it wasn't funny at the time, B. I ain't lying. I'm gonna tell you, man. I was in tears. I worked hard on that music, man. See, for those of you who don't know, my workflow is like this. If I get called on a project, which is why I charge so much, I write everything out. All the parts are written, because I ain't got no time to be guessing what your part is when I'm handing your part out to you. Dean, this is the note. That's me. I'm that guy. So I'm writing out all the background vocals. I'm writing out all of the most of the music. If it's going to be played by a band, in the future, I give those charts out to the client, lead sheets, full chord notation, the whole kit and caboodle. So to have that level of work lost, man, that's crazy. That's why I was saying earlier, even with Luna, it's a unproven technology. I strongly suggest that if you're going to dabble with this new technology with a client, that you have a RAID system in your studio. Make sure that that's being backed up in several places simultaneously before you start experimenting with client work, because if by some strange twist of fate it crashes and you don't have a backup, how do you explain that to your client? You can't retrieve their project from one reason or another, because your system doesn't have a backup system that has a backup system to a backup system. You can't explain that. You just lost that client and your good name for a long time. So you got to be very careful when you're introducing new technology to a client. It's not fair. Dabble and experiment on your stuff, not client stuff. They're paying you a fee for a service. You know what I mean? So if that's the case and that's your story, then I would suggest you use Luna on your stuff, not on client stuff. Okay, Mr. Barbarian, I use a Mixcraft 9 on PC, very stable. You still have a Pro Tools TDM system with 7 farm cards. Still works. Do I remember the black interface? Absolutely. I remember wishing that I could afford a TDM system. I was on a native system for a while, and then when I started getting higher end client work, and figured I could make that money back quick, then that's when I, took a leap of faith, investing $15,000 in a HD system. So, yeah, man, I do remember looking on those black. They were cute. The little sexy blackface TDM interfaces. I used to love looking at the lights. Yeah, but that was killer back in the day, B. Cabby Day says, I will get a Mac, but for now I got a PC and I'm good for a while. Listen, PCs are the bomb diggity today, man. They're stable. They finally got all their issues with being compatible with digital audio worked out. With creatives worked out as well. But there's a lot of people using Cubase on a PC, with no problems. And I think Cubase is pretty much built because they have the whole Nuendo, which was a PC based system backing up the engine there. So you're in a good place. If it's working, it's working, man. I mean, that's what it's about with me. If it's working, it's working. You ain't need to go messing around with it if it ain't broke. Don't go trying to fix it. Leave it alone. But for me, back in the day, having one too many negative experiences, and I've had friends of mine, very well-respected producers that record almost exclusively on PCs, but I can't. I just can't. And after having that one very bad experience, it was traumatic, man. To lose an entire project, traumatic. So I have never looked back. Now, Mixcraft 9. Don't quite know what that is. Someone's going to have to enlighten the brother, because that's new to me. Mixcraft workflow. Okay. Yeah, that's good stuff, Mr. Pirate Brain. Yeah, man. Good stuff. So, questions regarding Luna, comments. I will, start to head around the clubhouse turn, if you will, and say that Warren is not upgrading. I will download it, and I do intend to get an Apollo interface at some point. Yes. Why? Because I just want a more portable solution to go with my laptop. I was using a Focusrite for a while, but because that's sitting here, I'd rather have something that's dedicated for that purpose. So if I do get another interface, it will most likely be an Apollo interface. I will at that point grade to Luna just to see what it's about. I don't have the time to learn something new. For me, I'm in a different place than maybe most people. Not that I can't learn it, it's just that I just don't have the time, to sit down and learn something from the ground up, if you will. But for those of you who are going through a period of hardship in terms of your creativity, I would advise you to find something that's opposite of what you're doing right now. If you're into audio, get into the visual aspect. Go get a camera, learn photography, learn how to film. Because one thing that's a fact, and even in these times, which has brought us closer together, one thing that's a fact, the visual aspect of audio is not going away. So it makes sense for you to stack your chips on that side of the equation, because live streaming is important. If you've looked at my last few live streams, you see how I've transitioned into how to incorporate more of my equipment in a better fashion. I started out with the live stream camera. It was crappy audio. I said, how can I represent audio and not have decent audio for a live stream? And now here I'm, maybe if I do these weekly chats, I'll introduce, like right now I'm speaking on a Lewitt LCT 440 pure microphone. So now you hear in real time what the Lewitt sounds like. It won't sound like the AKG 414 if I use it on a future live stream, which will not sound like an AKG C3000, which will not sound like the Warm Audio WA 87. So here we are with the ability to introduce to the visual audience the audio aspect. So I would say, if you can't upgrade to Luna right now, your time is better spent learning the visual aspect of audio. Whether you learn how to light, learn how to record audio for video, whether you learn how to do tutorials or whatever the case may be. I believe we all have something to share, however great or however small, and it is up to each one of us to begin to interact in that fashion. This is about community, folks. Even though we're far apart, we're still close together, So I'll take a few more questions, and then after that, I'm going upstairs to see my baby girl and spend Easter with her. Okay, so let's get back. Mixcraft is so underrated. Oh, before I forget, some of you have reached out with regards to the studio tour thing. Thank you. I'm still putting, for those of you who have reached out, I'm still putting the plan together. This is why I want you all to get your video chops up. Try not to send me no unlit video stuff where I'm looking like I'm navigating in a cave to see what equipment you got. Those videos will be to the side. So I would suggest you go and look at some YouTube videos on how to shoot with your iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone? Do that. The iPhones nowadays are great tools to use because I am interested in seeing what you guys are doing. It inspires me. It tells me where you're at in your audio journey because I'm interested in knowing that. So with that in mind, you must use your iPhone. Make sure you're in a very well-lit environment. Lighting is of utmost importance when you are doing video. You can never have too much lighting. Nowadays, lighting is so cheap, you know, and show me your space. But if you have already reached out to me, I will be reaching back out to you next week with instructions on how we're going to accomplish this goal. I will most likely be using Zoom so that we can communicate one-on-one and get on the same page before I compile your individual videos. And this is to introduce each other, those of us who are participating in like today's chat, and I will make future references to that in the community tab. This gives us a chance to see where we are in our journeys individually. You know, so as I facilitate introducing Jack to Bob to Sue to Mary around the world, it pulls us closer together. And like I said, this is what it's all about, folks. It's about you and me interacting. It's not about me talking at you, but me interacting with you. So let's get those last few questions in. Okay. Mr. Pirate Brain says he lives in Austin, Texas, but he's from Baltimore. You seem to have a Baltimore accent. Nope. New York. Born, New York bred. And when I die, I will be New York dead. But I got some people in Baltimore. Lots of people. I got a funny story about Dennis Chambers when I met him the first. Well, I met him the first time. He's from Baltimore. He's from Baltimore. We met at the AES a long time ago. We were both young at the time. Another story for another time. But he looked at me with like, but he's cool people. Dennis Chambers is real cool people. Great drummer. Great drummer too. Yeah, it was funny. That was a funny situation. See, folks, no, I'm a joker, man. I'll be rolling up on people with some crazy stuff. So yeah, that was another story for another time. Another story for another time. Okay, R&B Charles says, would love to hear your 500 rack. In my rack, behind me, I'm using Fredenstein Artistic Mic Pre's, which are 512C clones. I have 4 of those. I have I got stuff on the shelf. I have a NEVE and a 1073 in there. I put that back in. I really love the Focusrite Reds. If you get a chance, you need to get those. Those are dark horses. If you see them on reverb, I would suggest snatching those up because they sound really good on just about everything. You're talking about one pre that sounds great on every. Those Focusrite Reds are the bomb diggity. But what I record as of late, what I've been recording with a lot are the WA73 EQs. You know, I love my Isis, really love them because they're clean and they work if you're trying to get a pure signal. Like I used those on a record for a live recording for a client, and it was a vocal ensemble, and I had the mics, 2 AKG C3000 mics going into those in a ORTF type pad set, and they sound great. The stereo image was so wide, you know, and pure. You know, when you have in this case, it was a mixture of voices, tenor, alto, soprano, but they knew how to blend themselves well. You know, that was one record that almost EQ'd itself. I mean, mixed itself. You know, and plus, you know, having the cleanliness of the preamps helps. It's no coloration, you know, so. Let's see. Do you have a size time? Ninja 6485 asked me, do I have a size time format requirements for the video? No. Shorter is always better if you could get to the point. Sometimes I have a habit, even when I did my first studio tour, some people were like, bro, this was like way too long. You need to shorten it up. But you know, just, you know, you decide, you know, how long you want the video to be. Take us through the entire setup. I mean, I don't want you to, you know, this is no, you don't have to rush yourself. So don't feel like you have to, you know, But I have to find a way to, because video files can be quite large, so I have to find a way for you to upload so I can download it and I can incorporate it into a studio tour to show everyone. Because presentation is 99% of it. And I have to make sure that it's done properly from an audio perspective. I have to tweak it on my end to make it ready for the general population to consume. So again, if you have any questions with regards to it, just email me directly. All the information is in the About tab. Okay. Anthony Mars, a very, very interesting and important discussion regardless of the lunar title. No, we were talking. This is true. But see, this is where I'm guilty, y'all. Y'all get me off on these tangents sometimes. If you say something like to me, like, if we talk about Avid, then, it's like squirrel. I get distracted and then I'm off talking about that. And I have an opinion about it. Sometimes I could, I'm sharing my opinion from a perspective of like, yeah, we're talking about Luna and we're talking about who it's for. You eat the meat and you're going to spit out the bones of me saying about how I spent thousands of dollars and not giving another nickel to Avid, So yeah, I'll take you on a journey, baby. You guaranteed that much when you're talking with me. That's for sure. My man said, I remember when Dennis first started with the P-Funks. Yes. Dennis Chambers was killing when we were about the same age. He was killing when we were younger, man. I mean, yeah, he's a heck of a drummer, man. Heck of a drummer. Dennis Chambers. Yes, sir. But yeah, that was a funny little joke we shared the first time I ever met him, though. Yeah, he's cool people. What's the name of that gain staging? This is Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. Well, hello, my brother. You the founder of the. That's another. That's a Black History Month thing. The gain staging plugin that I use. Gain staging plugin. I don't use a plugin. I use an actual test tone oscillator to gain stage every component in my studio. That's point one. I do know that there's a tone generator that you can place in the Pro Tools session, which and again I don't quite get that. I get it if you're using one of Avid's interfaces where you can use a tweaker to change the gain coming into your interface. That I did, but I never fully understood it if you were using it with another interface where you can't use a tweaker to change the metering or the gain coming into the interface, because the tone is being generated within the software. I said a lot. Okay. Gain staging. Folks, audio coming in has to go out somewhere. The only way to ensure that you are well within a decent enough dynamic range, which by today's standards is quite high because we're in a digital domain, you need to know where your benchmarks are. Every piece of equipment in your studio has to be benchmarked some kind of way. You don't know where the noise floor is in said microphone if you don't understand the spec of the mic. To get this microphone spec to agree with the spec of the preamp, to agree with the Pro Tools mixer and requirement of negative 18 dB full scale. So quite naturally, this input is sending a signal out and into somewhere else. That being, let's just say for instance, a mic pre. How do you know where the benchmark for the mic pre is going into negative 18 decibels full scale in Pro Tools without some sort of steady tone. Our voices and the sounds of instruments being recorded vary dynamically. The only way to make sure that that doesn't happen is to send a test tone at a pre-calibrated level of +4, 0 decibels, dB out at +4 to agree with the -18 calibration level of Pro Tools, decibels full scale. These two have to talk to one another. You can't just say that, okay, because I turned the knob up to 10 o'clock, I'm at the calibrated level. That's why when you look on most mixing consoles, they have a 0 dB reference. You know? So how do you know where 0 decibels is if it's not marked on the preamp? The only way to know that is to feed a steady tone into it. So software, no, I don't. I use a hardware unit to send a test tone, whether it's the phonic, you know, I showed this last week, whether it's this, which is much more reliable than that Fostex one. The PAA3, I use that. And that's sending a perfectly calibrated 1 kilohertz tone at 0 decibels +4. 1K, 0 dB at an output level of +4, because most of our equipment nowadays is calibrated to a +4 level. So that's what I use. There's a whole slew of videos that I did on how to calibrate your sessions, your equipment outside of Pro Tools. Tons of them for you to peruse on my channel. So I would suggest that you start there. You have any further questions from there, just feel free to reach out. I'm just an email away, okay? Hi, Warren, says Marcus. Okay, Marcus, I use the K12 metering. Not quite sure. I use one in my videos. I'm not sure what you would have. Reach out to me or offline so that this way I could keep everything moving along. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but reach out to me offline and we'll have a better discussion. You know, because maybe I misled you some kind of way. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on trying to help you understand the point that I was just trying to make. Okay. Hi, Warren, says Rami 22 IFY. Hello, my brother. Kind of tuning in kind of late because the brother's about to run upstairs, says baby girl. But I'm going to read Avalon Major. What's up, bro? How do you feel about using a dedicated mastering deck to mix as opposed to the deck and most audio interfaces, the Apollo X? Listen, I'm gonna tell you, some of them, the Apollo interfaces have really good preamps and conversion in it. That goes back to my original point of those who are already in the UA ecosystem. You're in a good place. Excuse me. You're in a good place. You know, so outboard conversion can work. You know, when you're putting together a system from the ground up, if you have the budget, you could always reach for something that's tried and true, like the Apogees or the Mytek Digitals. But you know, if you're just starting out, you can count on quality conversion coming out of UA equipment. That's for sure. Okay. Marcus Garvey wants to know signal path versus gain staging. Which one is more important? Signal path versus gain staging. Gain staging is always important. I don't know how old you are, but I'll use myself as an example. As a person who used to have to record on tape, tape used to have a noise floor. And certain biases of tape were known to be have louder noise floors than other. The only way to have a decent enough signal to noise ratio was to understand that you needed to calibrate your system so that the levels coming in were consistently above the noise floor. That was the goal, to not distort, but to not rest too close to the noise floor, to find that sweet spot in the middle. The only way you would know that is to understand that your gain staging was important on your equipment. Now, just because a mixer has 0 reference on it didn't make it a quality mixer. You still have components on the inside. You still have capacitors, you still have resistors, diodes. All of those things can add noise to the signal. So which is why Rupert Neve is such a great choice to reach for in these times as well as in times past, because he understood that technology on a deeper level to provide you with a quality enough signal path. So gain staging is still important. It's still very, very important. So if you understand that, that just changes everything. I don't care if you're using an art preamp. It doesn't make a difference. If you understand how to get the maximum signal versus noise out of that. Now, if it's a piece of junk, don't get me wrong. Some components of yesterday were just not manufactured to a decent enough spec. But by today's standards, most equipment manufacturers are pretty, well keen on how to produce some decent sounding kit, So even if it's an art, you got to know how to, okay, well, where's the sweet spot sonically? Where does it distort? At what, dB level? Because maybe they posted in a spec, it distorts at 24 decibels. And then suddenly you feed a signal into it that's at 12 decibels and it distorts like crazy, which means they misrepresented the spec, So only you got to find, you have to use a test tone oscillator. I listen. That's what's gotten me by for so many years, and that's what I live and die by. So that's what I would suggest you honestly do. The Motu, someone wants to know, what do I think about the Motu 8 Pre's interface? Pre-ES. Motu, again, they're decent interface to purchase. If you're just starting out, today we're talking about Lunar, I would definitely look into investing in the UA ecosystem, just because I think they're trying to take it to another level. And if you're just starting out, it's no better place to be than on the ground floor with somebody who's going on the way up. So yeah, Motu is good. If that's all you can afford, then that's fine. If it's somewhere in the neighborhood or the expense of like a UA system, then I would definitely go UA. If you're talking, apples to apples dollar wise, then I would definitely invest in the UA system over Motu. And someone wants to know, do I like the Soundcraft Ghost mixing board? Absolutely. Mixed on one for a long time. Worked with a producer here in New York. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. Briefly, at a studio in the Daily Planet building, Will Gomez, and we used at Night Owl. We had a Soundcraft Ghost, which is a great sounding board. $1,100 you have to spend. Look! If you have $1,100 to spend, I would definitely, I would lean in the direction of the UA system. Can't go wrong. For a number of reasons. UA or Focusrite, because you're guaranteed a decent sound out of the box. Motu, I think they are part of the distribution with TC Electronic and who the other people, the other Swedish company. You think I would know? I have their monitors. Dynaudio. So you got to think, if your stuff goes down, who's servicing it. And right now with if you're trying to get stuff serviced through that conglomerate of companies who are being currently represented in America, Motu, if they've fallen under a third-party distributor, then it can be a pain in the behind if something goes out. And it's nothing worse than something going out and then you got to jump through hoops and barrels to try and get it repaired. So I would definitely lean in the direction of Focusrite or UA. Now, if you're just buying, Buy from somebody that gives you a 30-day return policy. You don't like it, back it goes. It has to meet your discerning ear. That's the $1,000 you about to spend. That's your money. Don't go giving your money to somebody and letting them gas you thinking it's the greatest thing, because you are the end user. Just because they trying to make a commission, nah, bunk that stuff. 30 days I can return it. I don't like it. It's going back. You better believe it. I don't be playing that, Jack. Nope. So definitely, send that stuff back if it ain't working for you. So, trusty student, have I ever used dangerous gear? When I worked on Dolores' record, Duncan Stanberry, who was the mastering engineer, was, and this is years ago now, Dangerous was just starting to come up. Was using their transfer console. I think they were just introducing that, as well as the 16x2 system. And I was impressed with what I heard. I would be even more impressed if I could have a chance to configure it to my system, which I had fully intended to do. But I don't know if I shared this with anyone. As soon as this whole Corona thing jumped off, I lost like 3 contracts all in a day. And that was going to be money for me to be able to do an upgrade. And suddenly I was unable to. So lesson learned is that, you got to make sure you have some irons in the fire, because stuff jump off and happen and it's out of your control. Then what can you do? But I had fully intended to get I wanted a liaison, as well as the liaison was going to be my switcher for all of my outboard gear, the EQ as well as the compression, even though they had a power limiter in it. And I wanted the 16 input and output summing mixer for my mixes, because I wanted to come way out of the box, period. And I wanted to be able to treat my 2-track mixes, which will finally be summed out of the box and into a dedicated recorder. I wanted to be able to treat them like I would be treating them on a bus of a console. If I wanted to add a little bit of EQ to this bus, then EQ, or in some cases, sometimes you want to sweeten the bus of maybe just the drums with a little bit of Lexicon outboard Lexicon reverb. I have 3. I want to be able to use them in that fashion. So it was going to give me that degree of flexibility. But like I said, this thing dropped, and then I had to put all of my upgrade choices on hold. And it's a good thing it did, because I was talking about dropping some serious cash, and it's nothing like not being able to make money off the money you invested. That's a bad place to be. So yeah. But yes, like the dangerous stuff. Plus, it's made in America. It fails, it's right here in upstate New York. On the phone, talk to these people, and bam, they're not the biggest company, but at least, Jesus, I can reach right out to them and get stuff repaired. That's the primary reason why I stopped looking at the NEVE summing mixer, because God forbid if something, was to go wrong with it, and I'm in the middle of a session with a client. That's embarrassing. And they were using bad capacitors in their summing mixes, I'm hearing. Cheap capacitors. Capacitors are batteries. They need to hold the charge. So if you're driving those capacitors too hard and they crap out on you, they are talking about changing out the whole logic board to the tune of, some people were saying like $800. It gets expensive. Repairs, if you're in a commercial situation where your stuff has got to go for hours upon end, yeah, man, it can get expensive real quick, man. So you got to be careful with how you invest your money. Trusty students, I can get sound out of Logic into my 2-bus, into the SSL Fusion. Oh yeah, that SSL Fusion, yo, that is the bomb diggity. That thing is killing. You talk about all-in-one solution. Who's this calling? Who is? My father's calling me in the middle of a lecture. What does Daddy want? And got 2 other people on the line. Excuse me, folks. My dad just called me. All right. So, yeah, the SSL Fusion is killing, man. It's killing. So that's definitely an investment. I think my dad was just calling to check up on me. You know, I'm in New York, so yeah, it's getting a little crazy out here, to say the least. And Logic, ironically, I have to say that they've come a long way in terms of the quality, and I guess it has a lot to do with the math that they're using in the way that, you know, the sound quality is with regards to the sound quality. So yeah, combining it with that SSL Fusion, I'm sure you have a pretty nice sounding system. Somebody said there'll be a lot of solitary projects released due to coronavirus. Yeah, you know, but that's a good and a bad thing, because music is meant to be made in a communal circumstance. You know, you have the best memories, you know, when you're making it together. You know, no one can say, oh, I was by myself in the studio and I had such a great time. No, it's not fun. You know, the jokes that you crack, I miss that, you know. You know, the amount of takes that the public will never hear, that you know once you listening back to the record and it's being streamed or whatever the case may be, and you know, like, yo, it was a major mountain to climb to get that part done. You know, those things you're gonna miss, you know. So yeah. Here's another question, and one of the last couple that I will be taking. Any audio issues or limitations that you experience when tracking or mixing audio over ADAT? Over ADAT. That was a long time ago. That if you're talking about ever using an ADAT system, yes, I used to experience a lot of problems. Again, that's a topic for another day, but yeah, ADAT in its beginning was faulty, and well-intentioned recording system, but loaded with problems. But I want to buy that warm audio mix bus. Do I like it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I happen to like it quite a bit. It's a decent bus compressor. You know, there's no doubt about that. And you can't beat it. You honestly can't beat it. You honestly cannot beat it. But that's that. So with that in mind, cost-wise, I'm talking about, you can't beat it. The sound is great as well. That's my spiel on Luna. Will I be upgrading? The answer to that is no. Will I? Who is it for? It's for the person that's just getting in at the ground floor, who wants to get into the UA ecosystem, and for current users of UA equipment, and consider the cost, time-wise as well as financially, because from what I'm learning, it's not going to be a cheap proposition. They want you to buy the plugins, you know, and there's many of them that they're currently selling that look to be quite expensive. So definitely consider the cost of entry as well as the cost of ongoing expenses, because they're going to keep introducing stuff that you may like, that you may want to buy. So there's a lot to factor into the equation. It's not as simple as downloading software and getting going. You know, look at this thing from a view of 30,000 feet before you get too deep into it, you know, and want to say, okay, that this is the end all be all, because everything goes through a trial period. And right now, I think is a good time for those of you who are considering jumping in to think about it from that perspective. Okay, I appreciate all of you being here today. This was a lot of fun, as usual for me. I'm inspired as well as encouraged by each and every one of you. And again, if you want to be a part of the Show Me Your Studio series, reach out to me via the email provided in the About tab. And in the weeks to come, I'm going to be reaching back out to most of you who have already expressed interest and giving you some direction as to how we can get this thing going. So again, be safe. I can't stress the importance of saying that in these times. Don't be silly. Don't be a knucklehead going out playing basketball with your friends. If you're young, that's just being irresponsible. Take care of your families. Wash your hands. And don't go picking in your eyeballs with dirty fingernails, and keep your face covered, okay? Love all you guys. Stay safe. Until next time, peace.